we want to talk about the process known as erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is specifically the production of erythrocytes, also known as red blood cells, down here. And this process is a component of or part of a process known as hematopoiesis. Hematopoiesis is the production of all blood cells, including platelets. And so it would include, actually as a subset, erythropoiesis. Now, hematopoiesis starts up at the top here. These hematopoietic stem cells are found in red bone marrow. This is where all blood cells originate. And those stem cells are the precursor to two other stem cell types that are a little bit more specific. The common lymphoid progenitor cells give rise to other blood cells, and these other blood cells are going to be the lymphocytes, as indicated by this lymphoid term here. Those will be the B cells, the T cells, and the NK cells that we'll talk about later. The other stem cell type generated are the common myeloid progenitors, and they're going to give rise to everything other than those lymphocytes. And so all other white blood cell types that we'll talk about later, the platelets, but then one of their main pathways is to production of these erythrocytes, as we mentioned, the red blood cells. And about 99.9% of all hematopoietic stem cell output is geared towards production of erythrocytes. That doesn't make them the most important. It just means that they need to be present in enormous numbers. These are the most numerous cells in our body, indicating the importance of oxygen carrying for aerobic metabolism. The other cell types and platelets are absolutely essential, but we just don't need as many of them. Now, the erythrocytes are oxygen-carrying cells, and they're going to be traveling around in the circulatory system, right? Now, if we start at the bottom here, what is our regulatory mechanism for controlling the production of these red blood cells? Because enough of them is obviously essential. Too many of them can create a viscous nature to blood, making it hard to push that blood through the circulatory system. So there's a balancing act. We need enough of them, but not too many of them. And the key regulatory factor is known as erythropoietin, this particular hormone. And it's produced by the kidneys. And it's produced by the kidneys in response to a very logical stimulus, low oxygenation. Right? Remember, our red blood cells contain hemoglobin, the oxygen-carrying protein. And so if we become hypoxic, low oxygenation, then we would want to stimulate erythropoiesis, which again is going to occur through this hormone, EPO, erythropoietin. So the key stimuli to initiate the secretion of this hormone from the kidneys would be things like low blood flow at those kidneys, right? Not enough oxygen due to low blood flow. Anemia is when we don't have enough hemoglobin and or red blood cells in the blood, right? Again, indicating probably not enough oxygen traveling. Low blood oxygenation, which can occur with pulmonary diseases, right? If we don't actually diffuse enough oxygen at the respiratory membrane. Exposure to high altitude, where there's a lower partial pressure of oxygen. And then finally down here, cardiac failure, where we don't actually, the heart is weakened and we don't move enough blood to oxygenate our tissues. And so when we have those stimuli, right, we're going to get input on our kidney to increase the secretion of erythropoietin, and that stimulates the myeloid progenitor cell progress towards erythrocytes much more dramatically. And these cells are produced in enormous numbers, even at rest when we don't have any of these stimuli. Red blood cells are produced at 2 to 3 million per second, indicating the enormous numbers that are being replaced on a regular basis. At maximum stimulation, if we are really hypoxic, we can increase erythrocyte production by tenfold. So to possibly 20 million or more red blood cells per second being generated, again, helping to defend against hypoxia, which of course could be lethal to us in terms of not supplying our aerobic metabolism.